I see a lot of hands go up, so I'll first take it from here, and then I'm going to take a few questions from the audience as well. Yes, go ahead, quickly, briefly.
Right, let's assume all of us want liquor here, right? And let's assume you don't want to, you understand that liquor is bad as such, and you don't want, at least it shouldn't be used to gain votes, right? Now let's assume you say, I'm not going to provide liquor. Are we going to continue asking for it 10 years straight? Aren't we going to think that now liquor is not going to be provided? Let's realize what the rationale is behind the government.
No.
You cannot change their thinking, understandable. You can change yours by denying them the right of something that is wrong.
You are going to ask for it because if I don't give it, someone else is going to give it to you. You
Exactly.
got
So what you do instead is
what you do instead.
I understand. So what you do on the other hand is give them more liquor.
So that the desire for liquor, that's when people like us will not want to give it to you.
15 minutes left on this debate, and I ask a question here that when Muzaffarnagar was burning, how many politicians took a principled stand? Why was the army not sent it? Why was action not taken? Why was Uttar Pradesh bleeding? And where was the political class of this country? I'm taking a question from that gentleman in the black t-shirt. Go ahead.
The question has to do with the concept of marital rape. At the height of the protests after the Delhi gang rape, you guys were forced to make some amendments to the general laws regarding sexual violence. Despite the fact that even as we speak, there are millions of women out there waiting and fearing for their lives when they return home, that they'll be beaten and raped by their husbands, and they have no legal recourse as of now. The indecency of being afraid of such a life is exceeded by the inhumanity of the political class to refuse to acknowledge that the fact that something called marital rape could exist. What is possibly your defense for keeping that out of the ambit?
Okay, who takes that? Someone wants to answer on this side? Why was there no consensus with the political class on something as basic as that? Okay, who wants to answer that? Harsimrat Kaur.
It's a tough one, what you're asking. But I would like to start off by saying that what about every 20 statistics that show that every 20 minutes there's a rape happening in a part of our country. So why restrict it to marital rape? Let's talk about rape that happens not each and every night. It doesn't happen with every woman. I'm talking about the rapes that happen every 20 minutes in our country, and the conviction rate. If you look at the statistics of last year, out of the 1 lakh that were reported, there's not even a 20% conviction. 80% went scot-free. Now we come back. Now I come to the point what you're saying about marital rape. Let's talk practical. Who's going to decide whether it was a rape or not? I don't know whether you're married or not, but I am. Today I'm bugged with my husband. I tomorrow turn around and say that he raped me. Where does the court? Is the court already not burdened with enough cases?
A broader point being made.
It needs to be thought out, and when you bring in the law must be such that it's implementable. Not just bring in a law which sounds really nice for the public. That's what we are tending to do.
Ms. Badal, what are we talking about?
Arnab, what we are tending to do is bring in laws to pacify the public. The law needs to be such that is implementable.
Can I have a word in? Otherwise, like Meera Kumar, I'll stand on my feet. Harsimrat Kaur Badal, a gentleman called Om Prakash Chautala, made a ridiculous and, if I may say, blasphemous suggestion that girls should be married off early to prevent rape. He was responding to a stupid suggestion by a Khap Panchayat in Haryana that girls should be married off early to prevent rapes. He said we should learn from the past, especially the Mughal era. People used to marry their girls early to save them from atrocities, and a currently similar situation is arising in the state. Why didn't all the political parties go on the streets against Om Prakash Chautala and say we boycott this party forever and ban them from politics unless that statement is apologized for?
I don't think it's for the political parties to go out to the streets and boycott. It's for his electorate to boycott his thinking process if they don't think it's right.
Why should we leave? You're tossing the... 15-second response.
When was the last time you had a protest against the kind of treatment that Soni Sori has got by the police? Why are we so insensitive to rape? We become very agitated when we see rapes in our capital. Why are we not equally agitated when we see rapes in the lower strata of our society? Okay, this is again a classic case of selective agitation.
He throws it back to society. We have two questions there. 1 second. We are going to take those two young ladies on one row, and then I'll come to you in front. Yes.
My question is about, everyone here on this bench has been telling us to go out there, become part of the political process. I want to focus on the Kudankulam nuclear plant. Youth went out there and 55,000 FIRs were filed, 7,000 sedition cases. We are calling people enemies of the state for simply asking for alternate forms of energy. 14 and 15-year-olds are being called enemies of the state. Yeah. And you're telling us to go and participate?
Okay, good point. Good point. Good point.
Protest in Delhi against the sedition cases on 12-year-old children in Kudankulam. When was the last time our students, us, the middle class, what we call the youth today, responded to these? When was the last time we had a protest for POSCO in Delhi? When was the last time we agitated for it?
Ashay
That's what I'm
Sahai
asking.
is coming back into the debate, and then I'm passing the mic to this side. Ashay wants to go in.
Ultimately, classes of society will respond and feel most affected by the issues that pertain to them. That doesn't change the fact. Let me speak. That doesn't change the fact that the political class that is answerable to them has failed to engage them. Irom Sharmila's own representatives haven't acknowledged her cause, and there is no engagement over there, right? So that's where they failed. And ultimately, you talk about how we are voting for criminals, but we're completely ignoring constituencies like Pratapgarh, where Raja Bhaiya is the only person to vote for, and there is virtually no opposition, right? So what do you do in those cases?
Well, I mean, Raja Bhaiya, interesting representative of society. Yes, please.
We are talking about the theory of representation, that he's representing his constituency. So my question is referring to the last week events of this ordinance. So why, means when we see that in the every representative is speaking for his constituency, then why it take for the congressman that Mr. Rahul Gandhi to come on public and say this is wrong? So why means the
Mr. Pilot,
and
you got the question.
theory of representation is basically
Mr.
flawed,
Pilot, represent.
because when they debate in parliament,
He got the question.
the whip is there. That yes, whether they have to speak in favor or oppose.
Let him reply to
it
you.
is basically flawed.
Let him reply to it.
I think there are 2 points. One is that in Parliament, there is a whip that the party line issues, and everybody votes according to the party line. But within the party, there are discussions, and Mr. Rahul Gandhi is the vice president of the Congress party. Now, there were all sorts of questions raised, etc., but the political consensus at the time was to allow the ordinance to go through and have a law to change certain things. But Mr. Rahul Gandhi, after hearing, thinking, talking to congressmen and outside, made a very brave point, I think, and I think he was channelizing the public opinion by going out and saying it takes a lot of effort to say something like that at the point that he did, to say that we must now take a step back and change what we've done. In a democracy, it's all about accepting what the people are wanting. The majority wanted the change to happen, and we were able to reflect that. I think it's a good thing. The end objective is achieved, and we should really now try and focus on how we can avoid these things from happening in the future.
But political leaders should also guide public opinion with their comments. It's good to be led by it, but they should also guide it. And I'm going to take a last, Yogendra Yadav as a counter. One last question from there, then we are closing it. Yes, Yogendra Yadav.
When was the last time Congress took any of its vice presidents so seriously? 1. 2. The whole problem is with this thing called political consensus. We are not debating Congress versus BJP here. What all these people sitting here and listening to this program suspect is that there is a consensus, there is a collusion that all this political class has become a class unto itself, that parliament is being reduced into a trade union of politicians, that the most sacred house of this country is being used for
Fayaz.
self-defense of those who happen to be there.
Fayaz is responding
this is the
to you.
charge.
Fayaz.
Please respond. And Fawaz, when you expect every agitation for Adivasis and everything to happen in Delhi, are you not contradicting your own claims that unless something happens in Delhi, it doesn't represent the voice of the people? We are not discussing Delhi versus politicians. We are discussing people versus the political class here.
The only thing I expect is that we should also be sensitive to it. In the Delhi gang rape case, the 4 horrendous people who did that, before getting on the bus, they sodomized a fruit vendor. How many people even knew this? It was not highlighted by any parts of the media. It was just one fact-finding committee which said that, these are there are other cases also. Even in that very same case, before getting on the bus, they sodomized a fruit vendor. Nobody's ever heard what happened to that fruit vendor. It's because my only problem is that we only stand up and agitate and make noise when we are hurt. It is this empathy.
What is the responsibility of political class that allows such a high level of delinquency in its society to go untouched and unnoticed?
See,
and unacted?
when we become so selective, when we ask the political class to respond only to our grievances, only to something that affects us as a class or as our society, then that is when we filter them out. We filter out all the other voices.
Now we're very short on time, so I can't take too many counters out there. I'm not allowing any more counter questions. I let Kiran Bedi come in very briefly and then closing comments. Kiran Bedi.
What I've noticed is that many people in the political class start with politics. if they would start as police, not police, if they would start as reformers. I think that's the key. If they would work with the community as youth and become as social reformers, and that naturally takes them to politics, I think that you would get better people in this country. Number two, there is no 365-day code of conduct for politicians. There needs to be a 365-day code of conduct for politicians.
Why don't you join politics?
Sorry?
Why don't you join politics?
Did you ask me why did I join the Indian Police Service?
Is it relevant to join politics to change
No.
it?
Do I need to be told, did somebody tell me that I joined the Indian Police Service? I don't need to be told equally why I don't join
No, but
politics.
equally good
because
question.
that's your personal choice.
No, the question I asked you is why don't good people join politics?
No, the point is, these are very important personal, no, very
You
important.
consider.
Profession is a lifetime work, and these have to be very carefully personal choices, and that's
Okay.
the key, so that you make right choices.
May I just request a loud round of applause for our youth participants first. This is the most engaged and interactive debate I've participated in for a long time. Shankar, I think we've heard all the voices out. One thing I take from this is that we have the willingness to listen. But for that, the youth have to have the willingness to make themselves heard. The more you speak up, the more there will be a response. All the major changes which have happened should not just be guided by the media. They have to be guided by public opinion. I think that's the story of the last few days and months, and I think that's the satisfaction I go away with this debate from. Shankar.
I think there's very little debate that the sense of this House today would be that yes, the political class has indeed failed the youth. The degree to which they've failed the youth, there might be a difference of opinion here. But I think there is also a sense in the House that the political class is not the only class which has failed the youth. The point that Yogendra was making, that the youth itself has also in some sense failed itself.
Well, I think...
So I think those are important thoughts to keep in mind as we...
Well, I think society is becoming more assertive, and youth are an integral part of it. I thank all our participants, each and every one of you, for coming here and participating. For those on this side, especially against the motion, well argued, and for those on this side, brilliantly put. For the youth, it gives me a great hope that today they will be vocal, and I hope that all the youth watching this youth debate, the first of our youth debates, will go away with the feeling that somewhere in those questions also is your voice. I'll see you once again soon on the next youth debate.